Now we're going to look at the harmonization of a chorale melody. Remember, one of the main differences between chorale melodies and folk melodies or common practice period melodies is that we are generally harmonizing every single note with a chord, which means that the harmonic rhythm is going to be very fast. It's pretty much dictated to us. So we're going to put a chord on every single one of these melodic notes. So as I go through and firstly bracket what the harmonic rhythm is going to be, I'm going to go ahead and put brackets like this. We're going to be putting a different chord on every single one of these melody notes. Now, one of the first things I need to do as well is determine what the key is. So if I look at this key signature here, I can see that we're in two flats, which means we are either in the key of B flat major or we're in the key of G minor. As I look at the first note and I look at the second note and I see kind of the strong cadential 3-2-1 at the end here, the implication is that we are probably in the key of B flat major. Is it possible that we could harmonize this melody in the key of G minor? It actually is possible. We could have done it in G minor, but we're going to go ahead and do with what the strongest implication of this melody is, which is in B flat major. All right, so let's go ahead and erase some of this stuff and start getting to work. So one of the first things we're going to do, if we're going to take a totally objective way of looking at this, is we'll listen to the melody first, and then we're going to go through and take an inventory of what all the possible chords could be of harmonizing this melody. So the melody sounds like this. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And it looks like I got rid of my meter here, but we are in the meter of 4/4 time or common time. All right, so let's go back, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go through every single note and find out what all the possibilities are. I'm going to go through and put Roman numerals for each of these. You might want to go through and put the actual letter names of all the chords, FAC, EGB, DFA, so on and so forth. I'm going to do Roman numerals. So as I go through each of these, I look at the first note, and it's a B flat. So in the key of B flat, that could imply a 1 chord. It could also be an EGB, which would be a 4 chord. And it could also possibly be a GBD, which in the key of B flat would be a 6 chord. The next note, A, that implies an ACE, which would be a leading tone chord, an FAC, which would be a 5 chord, or a DFA, which would be a 3 chord. And you can see that all of these Roman numerals are always going to be about a third removed from each other, a 1, a 4, and a 6, a 7, a 5, and a 3. They're all kind of third related, right? So the next note is G. So that could be a GBD, which would be a 6 chord. It could be an EGB, which is a 4 chord, or it could be a CEG, which is a 2 chord. The next note, F, that could be an FAC, which is a 4 chord. It could be a DFA, which is a 3 chord. And it could be a BDF, which is a 1 chord. Those are all possibilities there. Next one, B flat. We've already done that one before. We know that one could be a 1, a 4, or a 6. A D melody note, that could be a DFA, which would be a 3 chord. It could be a BDF, which is a 1 chord, or it could be a GBD, which is a 6 chord. Okay. The C, we haven't done that yet, but a C could be a CEG, which would be a 2 chord. It could be an ACE, which would be a leading tone 7 chord, or it could be an FAC, which is a 5 chord. And finally, at the end of B flat, we've done that before, a 1 chord. It could be a 4 chord, and it could be a 6 chord. Now, I'm going to, for the case of this particular harmonization, find the strongest possible root movement I can find. Now, there might be some other interesting possibilities. There might be some weaker root movements. There's some other things, but I'm going to try to find the thing that gets us on a complete journey, starting at home, ending at home, and having cadential chords towards the end, and having a predominance of circle progressions and chords like 1s, 4s, and 5s that give me a really strong root movement. So I'm going to actually start at the end here. So what I'm going to do is circle the strongest possibility, I think, and it looks like towards the end, I should probably end on a tonic chord. And prior to that, I should probably make something that makes a strong cadence. So probably the second to last chord is going to be a 5. Now, before that, I've got a lot of options. Let's go ahead now and start at the beginning. I think I'm going to go ahead and start my chord progression on a 1 chord. And I'm going to see if I see some circle progressions happening here. So as I look around, I've got a 3 and a 6. That might be interesting. It might be something interesting. As you can see, I can harmonize this entire progression with 1s, 4s, and 5s. I might want to do that if I like to, but I might also want to have some parts of the progression that are a little bit more interesting, just to have something a little bit different than all circle progression. Okay, so I kind of like maybe the option of going 3 to 6 here. Now, the only thing I'm thinking might be a possibility is the melody itself. Well, the melody itself is the leading tone. Actually, is that possible? That's possible, sure. So 1 to a 3 to a 6. Let's say we want to get kind of more in a stronger root movement here. I kind of like the idea of going from a 1 to a 5 at the end. That's going to give me a nice strong circle progression there and a reverse circle progression here. So that's kind of nice. This is circle progression here. Maybe we want to go something kind of a little bit stronger. So let's go ahead and pick the 5 to the 4. That's kind of interesting, actually, because that actually is 3 descending seconds. Yeah, maybe I'll change my mind about that. Let's not do 3 descending seconds in a row. Let's change that a little bit. Get my Roman numerals back together here. So maybe I do like the 4. How about going from a 6 to a 1? How about that? That might be pretty strong. So let's go back to a 1 chord, to a 4, to a 1, to a 5, to a 1. So I do have a little bit of harmonic interest towards the beginning. A 1 to a 3 to a 6 to a 1 to a 4 to a 1 to a 5 to a 1. We do have some circle progression from the 1 to the 5. We've got reverse circle from 4 to 1, reverse circle from 1 to 5, so on and so forth. So it's probably going to be a pretty strong chord progression. Let's just go ahead and listen to it in block chords what this sounds like. So we've got a 1 chord, to a 3 chord, to a 6, to a 1, to a 4, to a 1, to a 5, and to a 1. So it sounds pretty good. There might have been an option that's a little bit stronger, but let's listen to it one more time. 1, 3, 6, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1. Okay? All right, so we're going to go ahead and go for that. We know what our harmonic rhythm is at this point, so we can erase our brackets. And then the next thing would be, if we're going to do a complete 4-part chorale harmonization of this, is we would go ahead and put our Roman numerals in there. Let's go ahead and do that next. So we're going to go ahead and put Roman numerals down. We can also utilize some inversions if it's going to help to smooth out the bass. So we've got 1, 3, 6, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1. I also know that towards the end I'm going to want to put a 1-6-4 there, the nice cadential 1-6-4 to 5 to 1. That's really nice. If I have some problems with parallels and things like that, I can go ahead and I'm going to erase all this because I've decided on my harmonic progression at this point. So we're going to erase all that. And I've got my progression here. And if I want to do some inversions, I can. Let's go ahead and see what this bass line looks like. Remember, generally the bass line is going to be about 50% contrary motion and some oblique motion to the bass. So I'm going to try to do that if I can. So I've got a B flat to a D to a 6 chord. Let's go ahead up to a G. To a 1 chord. Let's go back. Well, let's go down to a B flat. That's actually hidden fifths, but let's go for it. Well, you know what? I might put some of this in an inversion to avoid some of that. So let's go ahead and go maybe something like to a 1-6 chord, maybe to a 4 chord, and then finally 1-6-4 to a 5, and we're going to end like this. Let's see if that works. See what this bass line sounds like against all of this melody note. So it sounds something like this. Sounds like it might work. All right. So remember, if we're filling out the alto and tenor voices, we take some inventories, we cross out the notes that we've already got, so on and so forth. Okay? So it looks like, and I'll go ahead and bypass that. We've done a lot of that in the past. So I'm going to go ahead and try to fill in the alto and tenor voices with some good voice leading here. So I think I'm going to start with putting my D up here and my B flat right there. Okay. The 3 chord, I've got a D and an A, so that means I want a D and an F. I can hold that common tone D, go to an F there. On the G chord, I've got 2 Gs, so I want to have a B flat and a D. Good. Upper 3 voices look like they're moving in contrary motion to the bass. I want to double the soprano on the next one. Probably going to do something like this, doubling the soprano. To the 4 chord, we've got something that looks like hidden parallels in there. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I can get out of that. So I'm going to go ahead and move the E flat there and the G there. Remember, I do want to Let's see. That looks like it might work. Yeah, let's go ahead and do something. No, that's not going to work. So I'm going to have to find some other way to do this really quickly. Let's see if I can get through this in a way. I'm really going to want to do something like this at the end. Maybe I'll kind of work backwards. And then we're going to put, let's see, is that going to work? Yeah. Okay, good. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not going to work. Let's go ahead here. Put this B flat here. That's going to work pretty well. That's going to be an interesting little cadence at the end. Let's hope this all works. Then we have to get our way to that next. And let's do something like, okay. Let's see. Let's go ahead and do this. Okay. Let's see, let's look at some of these voices. So we've got the alto voice sounding like this. Okay, not too leapy, pretty much by step. Let's look at the tenor voice. That's not too bad. There's sort of a big leap there at the fourth chord. It's a leap of a fourth. Maybe there's a way we could have gotten around it with some improper doubling. But in general, this looks like it's going to be pretty good. Let's go ahead and hear what this sounds like. And we also can add some non-harmonic tones for interest in the middle, but that would be one possible solution of taking a chorale melody, figuring out the harmonic progression, figuring out a bass line, and smoothing out the voice leading with the basses using inversions, and adding alto and tenor voices.